Greetings and welcome to the Art of Rising. We are exploring mindset, leadership, and everything that has to do with your physical health and just showing up as the best version as you can. And I'm here again with a powerful brother. He seems to have some of the codes that we're looking for. So, brother, welcome to the show. Introduce yourself and let us know what you're doing with yourself these days.
Yeah. Hey, Omar. Listen, thanks for having me on again, man. It was so much fun last time, having a blast this time. Eric Rogell, I'm an author and speaker, and I do a lot of work with men, coach men, executive men, men who are looking to become the best men they want to be. And it's just something that I'm really passionate about. I've been passionate about for a long time. Just great to be here talking to you about it. Hopefully, we'll get some other men inspired to
Mhm.
get in and do some work.
Definitely. Thank you so much. And, let's just jump right into it.
Sure.
Why are men avoiding these conversations? We see women getting together, right? They have like circles, sound bowls, and cacao, and, they're in the forest, weaving flowers together. But men, man, it's like pulling teeth, bro. It's to tell
Yeah.
us, what is your idea on this?
I'll tell you, I've been doing this a long time and I've seen a lot of different men's groups, we'll just say. And I think men have a misconception that because women are getting together, like you said, and they're doing, sound circles and weaving the flowers together and hanging out in the forest, that's what men have to do. And I've run into a lot of men who have done some retreats and it's gotten a little bit kind of woo woo and they get like, oh, this is a little too soft for me. And I think a lot of men, we have that warrior side of us, what I call the lion side of us. So in my work, we talk about being lion-hearted, living as a lion-hearted man. And that's both sides, right? You have your lion side, which is that warrior, that knight, that um, um, lion archetype, and we have the heart side, which is our lover, our heart, that beautiful side of us, and we need both. But because we're men, we lead with that lion, we lead with that warrior, and so we like things a little bit more along those lines. And I think I don't want to say mistakes because really there are no mistakes. But I think what's happened is you get some of these groups and they go, oh, well, women are doing this. Men should be doing that too, the same exact way. And that doesn't work, right? We have to have it our way. So when I do my retreats, when I do, I have a men's group that we meet every Thursday evening online, virtually. It's called the Bold Men Brotherhood. We do it a little bit more yang, a little bit more on the lion side, right? And keep it that way. We challenge each other, we push each other, we hold each other accountable. One of the things that I find, and this goes along with your question, is a lot of men are afraid to get vulnerable, right? That's been a big thing for a long time, is men don't want to be vulnerable. Well, we do it in my work, what we call vulnerable from strength, not vulnerable from weakness. So I find that some men, when they first start sharing what's going on with them, they can be vulnerable from weakness, which is more like victim mindset. This happened to me, and I can't believe my wife did this, and she was such a bitch to me, and I can't believe, it's like that whiny kind of feel. And that turns off a lot of guys. They're like, look, I don't want to do that, man. I'm not getting in there. I'm not going to be all, complaining and victimy. We do vulnerability from strength, which is more like, hey, man, here's what's happening to me. Here's what I'm going through. Here's the challenges that I'm seeing. Here's the things that are really shaking me up a little bit. And I want to fix it. I want to go past it. I want to conquer it, right? I want to be victorious at the end of this. And that's really the difference. So I find that a lot of men don't see that going in. They think they're going to get into that woo-woo, soft, lots of music and dancing around type thing, rather than what we like to do is just go straight into it. Just attack the problem, attack the issue, conquer it, and keep moving.
I find in the men's circles that I've been in as well, that's that's the best approach, actually, because with this misconception that we're roasting marshmallows and singing around the fire, which some of that is all right too, but we're not wrestling each other to the ground either,
Yeah.
right? It's not a Spartan retreat or something like that. So
And that
but that
causes some fear in a lot of guys too. Like they, listen, one of the things that I find is, you masculinity is a beautiful thing, right? It's been said over and over the last, decade or so that masculinity is toxic. So I always say masculinity is not toxic. It's just misunderstood, mistaught, and misused,
mm,
right? We as men need to get in and support each other. And I find that this whole there's two ends of that spectrum. The one side is like the masculinity has to be, we got to go out and kill something and smack each other around and roll around on the ground and do all that. And there are some men who are like, not for me yet. Maybe in the future I'll be okay rolling around on the ground, but I don't want to jump into that. I've got to kind of get myself to that point. And then the other end of the spectrum is what we, talked about with the, weaving flowers and sound circles and chanting and that kind of thing. And again, none of this is wrong, Omar. I want to make sure I make that clear. None of this is wrong. Men are doing what they're doing, but I find the vast majority of the men are somewhere in the middle of that, right? They don't want to go to this extreme and they don't want to go to that extreme. And that's where they kind of start resisting. I don't want to do men's work because I don't know what I'm going to get, right? Am I going to be rolling around on the ground with a guy, or am I going to be, chanting and weaving flowers and wearing robes and that kind of, I've had guys tell me experiences they've had all over the spectrum.
Yeah.
My work is, let's get honest. Let's get vulnerable from strength. Let's be there for each other, shoulder to shoulder, right? Iron forging iron. Let's get in there, help each other. Be real, be authentic. Talk about the problems that you've had. Talk about the issues. Talk about the challenges. I even, tell guys, talk about your quote unquote mistakes, because in my work, there are no mistakes, right? Everything's a new battle scar that you've earned. Everything is experience gathered, and you're gaining wisdom. And as you gain wisdom, you're getting wisdom from the men who are ahead of you on the path, and you're sharing wisdom with men who are behind you on the path. That's really the way that it works. And if we all go down this path together, we're all just wanting to be the best men that we can be.
That's right. I love that you said, that there's really no right or wrong, right? Because those are like judgment points. Because I've been in some circles where I remember one brother invited me. He said, "Oh, you do men's work. Come on in online and talk and stuff." And then, the guy started opening up, and I kid you not, Eric, it felt like one huge complaint fest. Like they were just dumping out for like 30 minutes. I was like, I can't do this. This is, where's the solutions?
Yeah.
Right. There's no right or wrong. And maybe some men like that because obviously, his group is thriving and stuff like that. But,
Sure.
what about the solutions? Let's talk about how can we fix this? I'm sure that if we had a group of men right now come online and I said something about I was dealing with, someone in the group has some sort of solution, something. Hey, I know a guy. Here's his number. Or, look, this is what helped me, brother.
Yeah, that's why the wisdom is so important in sharing your wisdom. And then listen, to your point about, it being a complaint fest and all that. I've been in a bunch of those. I've seen it. And, it's funny because when I first started doing the work, I liked that. Because here's why. Here's what I find when I first start talking to men, or men come into a group for the first time, is, we tend to hold things very close to the vest. Like we don't really share a whole lot as men. We're taught to, from young boys to kind of tamp down our emotions, right? And not really, my mom is a perfect example of this. I mean, I love my mom. She was fantastic. But if I would get angry, it would scare her, right? Especially when I went through puberty and I got bigger than she was. She really got scared and she was like, "Oh, Eric, don't be angry. Don't get angry." And it was confusing. And so you start kind of pushing that stuff down. And then when you get into a group where you have permission and it's okay for you to share what's going on. I find that a lot of men, it's like they just want to share everything. Like it's just this cathartic event. So, typically when a guy comes in to any of the work that I'm doing and they start doing that, I'll let them go for a little bit, right? Tell your story, get it out, do your thing. And then they start to realize that complaining about it and being a victim in it isn't going to solve anything. Right. So then the other men in the room will basically guide them, and it'll be like, we're telling our story. And that's it. No victim, no complaint. Here's what I'm going through. Here's the challenge that I have. Here's how it's affecting me. Anyone have any, suggestions? We don't give advice.
Right.
In any of the work that I do, because advice comes from here. It comes from the head. It's all very, hey, Omar, you know what you should do? You should do this. You should do that. I don't know about you, but when someone tells me I should do something, it's a big, F you.
Right. Yeah. We stay away from that as well, too. We often say,
go ahead.
I was just going to say that we like to say that when you meet the guy who says, I've got the shoe that fits every foot, stay away from that guy.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a great way to put it. I have a buddy that puts it like, if you find a doctor that gives everybody the same prescription, like it helps nobody, right? So the thing that we find is that instead of giving advice from here, from ego, from should, from all of that, we share wisdom, which comes from the heart, comes from here. And wisdom is just a relating of your experience. So we find it's more like, yeah, man, I went through the similar challenge and here's what happened to me. And here's what I tried to do about it. Here's the result that I got. And now you can take from that whatever you will, right? Make your own decisions. You put your own prescription together and you can gather this wisdom from other men. And that in and of itself, Omar, is why it's so important that men do the work, that we get together, because look, no man has ever done this alone. I don't know anyone I've ever met, great men, highly successful men, really aware men, really, self-aware, evolved men. I don't
spiritual men, right?
They haven't done it on their own. There's always been somebody ahead of them on the path. And they've been courageous enough to ask them for some wisdom, ask them for some guidance. And it's the way that we do it. And so what I think is so crucial about doing men's work is, we need each other. We've lost this, I'll say, art of seeking guidance and guiding others.
Let's talk a little bit about that loss, right? I was thinking about this, Eric, and it makes me think of that rite of passage. So yeah, I had a rite of passage. They told me, go drink some alcohol, go get lots of women, right, and pay a bill. This was my rite of passage. Even within some of the Latino community, they have something called a quinceañera, which is where the girls at 15. You already know, right? And then there's the sweet 16, right? But then for boys, there's nothing. The closest thing might be like a bar mitzvah or something like that. But we seem to have lost that in our society, where, like my son, for instance, as soon as he comes to age, he'll be surrounded by men, family members and other men within the inner circle looking at him and tell him, hey, now is the time. You are stepping into your manhood. You can still continue to do things that young men do. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you need to realize that you're crossing the threshold now. Keep that in mind. You're becoming a man.
Yeah,
so tell me about that.
Throughout history, there's always been a specific rite of passage. Native American tribes, here in the U.S., other tribal communities, in Africa, in Alaska, and a lot of these tribal communities, they have that specific rite of passage. Whenever I hear this type of thing, I always think of the Spartans, and how the Spartans would take the young boy at like age 6 or 7, separate him from the women, and only have contact with men until he's old enough to understand the difference, and then he can be assimilated back into the community. That's a very different rite of passage. That's a years long right? Separated type of thing. And then the others, in the tribal communities, it's that specific, like you have to achieve this on this day. Like all the young men are there and they do this whole thing. We don't have anything like that anymore. And it's even gotten to where, I know men who are fathers who would love to, teach their sons things about becoming a man, but they never had it from their father. So they're not certain what to teach them, how to teach them and show them. And so you have these generations of young men growing up, becoming fathers themselves, having sons, and not really understanding how to guide that young man into manhood. And, I've done a lot of kind of looking into it, and I find that, what does it do to us when we have that rite of passage? Like I mentioned, the tribal communities, and they go, you are now a man. You have, conquered the challenges we put in front of you. You are now a man. Now I'm considered a man in this tribe. We don't even have, I know men in their 30s and 40s who are, they're very much like, I don't even know if I become a man. Because like you said, it's like, I don't know, does buying a house make me a man? Does having children make me, just getting married make me, when does it happen? And they don't really know. And I think we've lost that sense of, we get together as men, we help each other become good men, and then we can import that on our sons and they can become good men. And that chain has been broken. And it's something that, it's one of the things I'm passionate about. I know you're passionate about, is we somehow mend that chain and get where it's normal for men to seek wisdom and guidance from other men, to share their expertise and experiences, and then pass that on. So I always say, if we get this work going, it has generational impact, because on the line, generation and generation and generation, and men grow up understanding that, hey, this masculinity that I have, this stuff that I feel is not toxic. It's beautiful. It's part of who I am. And I can achieve amazing things by tapping into it.
I also think about, this masculinity that you speak about, and how men need to step up when the time comes, right? So when disaster strikes, when there's a major flood or a hurricane, who do they call? They call the men, right? Okay, well, some women, they get into it too. We're not putting them down. No, but they get into it, but mostly it's the men who are doing these sort of hard, life-threatening thing on the majority aspect. And but then when we're back in society, they tell us to be quiet, to hush down, and don't. Why are you talking so loud? Why do you pull the door out so fast, or and then you're expressing yourself like, hey, but I'm a man. Like, this is how I feel. Like, So there's that confusion, that goes on. And why do you think that these things happen? Why do you think that in this society today? I mean, let's not go too far deep, because I mean, they're way out. Some of these things are way out. Oh, listen, like the last administration, the one before, like they started with this crazy. Like, I went to the library and the books for the kids, bro. Let's not even get into it. So why? Why do you think? Why do you think that this is happening here?
I always look at it as there's a fear, right? Because in my work, we have what we call the sacred 7 core values that we believe are ideal for men to live by. You can choose not to. It's up to you. You decide. But they are courage, honesty, integrity, commitment, duty, honor, and love. And if you look at it, courage and love are at the two ends of that spectrum. And I always say the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear, lack of courage, fear. And that fear leads to hate. And I think when I look at like the examples that you just gave, when men are talking loud or being boisterous or being, I've been in places where guys have gotten together, especially younger men, they're loud, they're having a great time, they may be, goofing around with each other. And I can see around them, people seem to be afraid. What's going to happen here? Are they going to start fighting? Are they going to start throwing things? Are they going to start insulting? There's that fear that comes up. And I think there's a lot of fear around the masculine. And is some of it justified? Sure. Is some of it not justified? Absolutely. Because the fear comes from not understanding it and not knowing it, which is why I say masculinity is misunderstood, misused, mistaught. Because we just don't have in society an understanding of what masculinity is, because we've been told it's toxic for so long. So when you hear a man being loud, fear. When you see a man standing up, or a group of men who are, having a good time, and they might be a little bit boisterous, had a few beers, whatever it is, there's fear around that. And the opposite side is, oh my God, there's a tragedy. There is a hurricane. There is flooding. There is whatever. We've got to fix this. It's the men who run into that, right? It's the men who tap into their courage and go towards danger for the rest of us. And in that moment, we realize how beautiful that masculinity is. Now, listen, there's women, we all have the masculine and feminine in us. Women have masculine and feminine in them. So when you said, women go and do that too, they're tapping into their beautiful masculine that they have. And so when you look at it in that way and you say masculinity is beautiful, we can tap into it in times of need, when we need to be heroic, when we need to have that courage, when we need to run into the line of fire to help people, to save people, to fix things, to, overcome challenges. It's a phenomenal thing to have. But that other side that you talk about, when that stuff is not going on, when there's no not perfect, but great example of when masculinity is needed in, times of disaster or danger or war or whatever it is, and we're just hanging out in society, there's still that fear of, I don't know what this thing is. I don't know if I can control it. And so I just want to get rid of it. And that's where we get into that, issue is it's the fear that drives that. I just want to squash it. I want to, like my mom, like it's a perfect example. I'm getting bigger and stronger. I'm starting to get, hormonal in puberty. And so the anger and the rage is coming out, and don't know where to put it. Don't know how to handle it. Don't know how to command it. My mom was a single mom, by the way. My parents were divorced. My dad, we didn't see him a whole lot. So that's why we didn't have that experience. She didn't know what to do with it. So she just wanted to push it down, push it away.
Right.
Hide it,
Right.
keep it hidden. And I think it's that fear, Omar, that really drives people to say, ooh, I don't like this. I don't like this.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, Eric, let's go a little bit more deeper too. Let's talk about the pain. You see, because pain is something that you need to process, because if you don't, you just hold on to it. It causes dis-ease and those type of things. And oftentimes things that you avoid more, that you hide, you're only strengthening it. That's what you're doing. You think you're pushing it away, but you're just making it stronger. So
Sure.
let's talk about that, about men processing and the pain, and why is it difficult for them, and what do you suggest, or some tools that men can use in order to process pain?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's a really important discussion to have. Thankfully, there has been a lot of conversation about men's mental health recently. And, thank goodness there's a lot of celebrities, athletes, people that men look up to who have come forward about their pain and about their journey with their own personal mental health. And, I really appreciate them doing that. And it's because, look, I went through it as a young man. Like I said, my parents were divorced. Dad left. For me, it was like an abandonment. Like, here's my father who I look up to, who was an athlete and a successful, in his career, and a great looking guy and he rode motorcycles and, all that kind of great stuff. And then one day he was just, yeah, I'm not going to be here anymore. And he left. So there's that pain of that. And it goes, and I'm speaking for myself and, knowing a lot of men who have gone through my work, we have that pain and we're told not to really share it. And it goes back to the vulnerability. If you don't know how to share it, it comes off as whiny and complaining and weak and, all of those things we don't want to be seen as. So we just cram it down, right? We hold on to it. And like you said, it just grows and grows. And the way that I always looked at it was like, a soda bottle and you just shake it and shake it and shake it. The more that you have that pain and you're shaking and shaking. And then at some point that bottle's going to pop, it's going to explode. And this happens with a lot of men. And it goes back to that danger thing of why masculinity is seen as dangerous, because we'll keep it in, and it explodes from that pain. And then people go, see, I told you, dangerous, can't be controlled, got to keep it, got to get rid of it, which causes more pain because now that masculine side of me is wrong. So we have the issues that we have. For me, like I said, abandonment of the masculine father leaving, that pain, not being able to express myself, there's that pain. We have to get to a point, and this is why, circling back, I'm so happy that these athletes and these celebrities and these strong men, these men who we look up to, are finally saying, yeah, these are my issues. Oh, thank you. I know I've had them and it's okay. Right. And I think we need to let more men know that that pain that we're feeling is normal. It happens. We all have it. It doesn't make you broken. It doesn't make you wrong. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you less of a man. It's just a feeling. It's just something going on in here. And the minute you share it and recognize it and understand it, get some, attention from other good men, get some wisdom from those good men,
right,
dissipates. It starts to go. And so to me, yeah, the pain is very real. At least in here, it's very real to us. And it's that going into it, looking at it, sharing it. Vulnerability from strength. Hey, man, I'm having a challenge, man. I'm just feeling abandoned by other men. Like I feel alone. I feel like there's nowhere to turn. And I would like to have a solution for this. That's being vulnerable from strength. You're just admitting that something's going on. And now you've given yourself permission to actually do something about it. Instead of hiding it and hiding it and hiding it, which just, to your point earlier, just makes it a lot worse.
Right. These safe spaces, that's where I find for men to let go. They don't feel safe, but if you create that environment, like I've had some brothers, and I'm sure you've seen them too, man. This one brother, he shared some deep stuff, man. I kid you not. I felt like he sucked the air out of the room. Like it was just like, whoa. And then I thought I had it bad, but it's the safe spaces to be vulnerable. So there was a time where I was feeling these emotions and it was bottling up, and I went to a friend, man, and I started speaking, and man, I let go and I cried and all this, and he was very patient. He listened to me, and then when he spoke, he said, I tried to take myself out just recently. And I was like, I was shocked, Eric. I was like, I know what kind of whiskey this guy drinks. I know what kind of girls he dates. I was like, how could he have not said something to me? Are we at that point that we don't have that safe thing? So, processing that pain, I feel that it comes from that safe space. So one of the, go ahead, continue. Go
No,
ahead.
I was going to say, because you brought that up, and it is having that safe space. And it's also understanding that when we share those kind of things, we move everybody forward. So that guy sharing that with you, he moved you forward, right? So understanding the value of what you've been through, whether you see it as a mistake or pain or a screw up or whatever it is, it's going to move another man forward. And we had a night in my group a couple of years ago, and a guy that I was good friends with, and he was in the military, spent career in the military, and he had gotten to a point after he got out of the military after a few years where he tried to take his own life. He tied a rope around his neck, tied it to a banister. He had like a second floor in his house, tied it to the railing, and went over. Well, he was big enough that he broke the railing and he landed, a story down, fell unconscious. His wife found him and they took him to the hospital, and he thought he was dead. He thought he had died, and this was all part of the dream. And he asked me, "Hey, Eric, can I share this?" It was around the holidays. And he said, "I know a lot of people get very depressed around the holidays, family stuff. Can I share that story?" And I kind of felt into it for a little while. And I said, "Yeah, brother. Yeah, share that story. Definitely." I mean, I know it may sound depressing on the surface, but I want you to get into what you learned from it, what you took away from it. How did you become better because of having this experience and now knowing you survived it and all the great stuff you've done since that happened? And he went into the story, and I watched, because we do it on Zoom, so you'd see everybody. One of the rules we have is you must be on camera, like no hiding. There's no turn the camera off, and you must be on camera. And I watched every man, and there were tears. I know I was getting emotional about it because I was thinking about the times in my life where I thought, like, hey, you know what? It might just be easier if I just end this shit right now. Like, why do I got to keep struggling with this? It might just be easier. So I've gone through those thoughts several times in my life. And when he finished, and like I said, there was some men had tears in their eyes. I would say 3 or 4 men in the group kind of raised their hand and said, "I did the same thing." I mean, I'm getting emotional about it now. They said, "I did the same thing, and I never told a soul about it. And I have been carrying that for years. And you talking about your experience has allowed me to feel it and be okay with sharing my experience with other people." And so everybody moved forward at that time. And that to me is the power of having these spaces, like you said, safe spaces where it's okay to get vulnerable. It's okay to share pain. It's okay to share, hurt and all of that, because it moves us all forward. Now, I'm going to give you a quick flip side. Beginning of every one of our calls, we have what I call victory fire. And that is when each man in the room shares a win for the week. And it could be, not that there's big and little wins, but it could be as big as I just closed, $100,000 deal in my business, to I got a great parking spot at the supermarket this afternoon, right? Like whatever your win, it could be I had a great conversation with my kid. The reason why is because, we're going to share, but it's got to be sharing the victories and the expeririences that we feel are, limiting or negative. We need them both, because then it just doesn't turn into, and we lead off with like, all right, we've all had a big win this week. We've all conquered some stuff. We're ready to go. Here's the topic. What's going on? And then guys feel more comfortable sharing because it's not going into this thing, like you said on the one you mentioned, where it's just, a big complaint fest, right? And everybody's just being a whiny little bitch, and they're just talking about we've got wins, and now we can talk about some challenges and how do we get through these challenges.
That's super powerful. And one of the reasons why I brought you on today, I think of you often, brother, and some of the work that you're doing, some of the information that you that I have acquired from you. I told you I printed them out, man. We had them, we have them in the circles, bro. And then I hand them out, and then brothers are writing and they speak out. So it's super powerful. But one of the reasons why I brought you on also is because we are having a men's gathering at this establishment. It's called Nicholas Brooklyn. Now, this place, they have a lot of heavy hitters come through. These workshops are super powerful guys that are very strong and knowledgeable and super popular, right?
Yeah.
But then here I come with the breath work and the ice, and I've been doing it there too. But I constantly hearing like, hey, where's the men's gathering? There's none here. Like women's like, come on,
Yeah.
I want to learn about my prostate. I need to learn about my high blood pressure. I need, I gotta go to the doctor so he could tell me. Or, I want to learn about some of these issues that I'm dealing with, about my wife, about my kids, about my
Yeah.
finances. I want to be an entrepreneur. Come on, I'm going to this job. It sucks. I hate it, bro. I gotta keep doing it for another 40 years, stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I got the calling, and I've been asked to do this. So I'm on assignment. I've received my directives and I'm on it, brother.
Good,
That's
man.
why I contacted you, man. I said, let me call in the professionals, man. Let me see, So it's taking place this Saturday
Mhm.
at Nicholas Brooklyn in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and it's July the 11th at 6 p.m. It's from 6 to 10. We've secured a food vendor.
Nice.
This culinary chef is an alkaline chef, if you know about that. We're too acidic inside. It comes
Sure.
from the foods we're eating and stuff. So there's some of those healthy options as well as some other things too. And it's going to be a great thing. And I'm getting all of these notes from you and protocols and, to guide the men, right? Because it's
Sure.
not a military camp. We just want to be like, hey, let's not complain and let's not talk about, what happened in the 1800s about this suffering that's not going to do nothing for us today, So
Yeah, no,
that's
I
where we're
think that's
at.
a great thing, man. And any way I can help with that, you let me know. I mean, I don't know if you're doing it hybrid. A lot of guys do these events and they do a hybrid event, which means,
Mm.
some of the guys are there live at the space and some, they have like a camera and you can just dial in from Zoom. If you want me to come in on Zoom and say a couple of words, be really happy
Mm.
to. Or if you want some of my wisdom beforehand that you can share with those guys when they get
Mm.
in. The biggest thing I would say, look, guys, if you're considering going to this, go, because it's just an amazing thing to do. Part of what I feel like you said something where the guy's like, oh, I got a business and I have to do this for the next 40 years. To me, it's about finding your passion, right? And if you're not living your passion, and I wasn't, trust me, I was making a lot of money in jobs that I hated, and I just got up in the morning and was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this again. And then I got into what I was passionate about, which was writing and working with men and coaching and doing all of those things. And when you find that passion, things get a little bit easier. And you may find your passion at this event because you're going to be there with other men standing shoulder to shoulder. And you could go, oh my God, I didn't know that was a thing. That sounds amazing. I can't tell you how many guys I know. I have one client, very, very successful CPA, and he was sitting at a bar one night having dinner. Like, he was by himself. He was alone. So he went to this, restaurant that he likes, and they have a bar, and he sat at the bar and he's having dinner. He sat next to a guy who had a career doing something. And he looked at me, he's like, I didn't even know that was a thing. He ended up doing that and he made millions, but he was happier every single day. And he had a conversation with a guy, have conversations. And I learned this thing a while back, and I will just suggest it for the guys that are there, because for a lot of men, it's going to be their first experience, with it being okay for them to share their story, their pain, their challenge. And we mentioned, being vulnerable from strength. Just remember that in your heart. I'm going to be vulnerable from strength. I'm just going to talk about it. I'm not going to play victim, and I'm going to ask for, advice. I'm not advice, wisdom. See, I catch myself. Just want to ask for some wisdom. And I heard this somewhere. I can't remember where I heard it, but I adopted it. I grabbed it. You can use it. And it's a guideline we have in our room, when we do our meetings. And it is respect the 5 B's. Always remember to respect the 5 B's. And the 5 B's are: be brief, brother, be brief. That is, don't go telling every detail of the story. Get to the point as quickly as possible with each other, right? And that'll help because, guys want to tell the story, and we're all like, oh, is there a point? Like, I don't want to, and I have to stop guys in the room, especially if they're new. Hey, brother, tell me what's the point? I don't need the details, right? I just get to the point, and then we can help you. And you'll find that men get better and better and better at doing that. And so keep it to that, for this is some of the wisdom that I have, because the storytelling, and listen, I'm an author, I'm a storyteller. Some of the storytelling gets a little bit too much. And that's when guys start disconnecting from the conversation. Keep it brief, keep it on point, and now you guys can ping pong back and forth and grab some wisdom from each other.
I love it. I love it, man. We'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for your time, for your wisdom, for your knowledge, brother. I can't thank you enough, brother. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Listen, like I said, it's an honor to be here, man. I love doing this kind of stuff. Any way I can help you for your thing on Saturday, you let me know. And anytime you want to jump into the Bold Man Brotherhood as my guest and just kind of see what it's all about, like, we do it Thursday night. So we're recording this on a Thursday. So we call it the round table. We have a round table tonight at 6. So anytime, any Thursday you want to jump in, you let me know.
I think tonight is the night, brother. I love to be there.
Okay.
Yes, I would love
All
to. I
right.
was going to ask you
Sounds
that.
good.
Yes, I'd love to come in and just listen, man, and take it all in, brother.
Yeah,
Thank you.
do it. And you might get some great stuff for Saturday. So
Yes,
um,
exactly. All right,
so
stay right there, brother, while we talk backstage. For those of you listening in and tapping in, thank you. Come join us at Nicholas, Brooklyn this Saturday, July the 11th at 6 p.m. to 10. So if you need more information, just hit me up and I'll take care of you. Peace and love. Thank you.